Don't come into it thinking that you got all the answers. I guess it's the same advice I'd give to anybody about marriage. Just stay humble, show up every day, knowing that some days you're going to have it, some days you aren't.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
Right now, while it's fresh in your mind, check out live.teledudes.com.
We took our notes from over 100 interviews with top agents from around the country and made it into a live webcast.
Using these strategies led Craig and I to selling more than $10 million in premium in the last 2 years.
On this call, you'll receive the exact blueprint to get the same results.
Just go to live.teledudes.com to register for this upcoming Tuesday's live call with us.
If you jump on this call with us, we're certain 2022 will be an absolutely fantastic year for you.
See you there.
Boom! And it's all out of order. It's all out of order.
That's great. How we know we started.
Yeah. We have a live studio audience today, and as they're being let in, I'm sure that they will be muted. So
yes,
that's a little housekeeping.
Mr. Craig, who do we have today?
Oh, Mr. Josh Phanco from, is it Visalia? Are you Visalia?
No, it's
Fresno.
Close, but it's Fresno and Clovis. We're pretty much the same thing. Yep.
Clovis. Wasn't there a movie, Clovis Field?
Cloverfield.
Same thing. What's the difference?
Awesome.
So I don't know if I didn't even think about it, but would we do speed breakers?
Yeah. Why don't we do a little speed breakers?
It's like the Brady Bunch here with everybody. Let me be completely unprepared and not have it up. But luckily for notes, you can just search. So, all right, Mr. Josh, are you ready for this round of speed breakers?
Bring it.
All right. Have you ever had a mullet?
Yes, believe it or not.
Yes.
Well, we're done. That's awesome. First crush.
I'm going to say Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years.
Oh, you know what? Maybe they're with you. Most embarrassing thing your mom ever caught you doing?
I'm sad to say, but I actually took money from her wallet one day to try to.
Oh, you got busted.
Got caught.
Wow.
I shouldn't say that online.
Yeah, well, she knows. So fastest speed ever driven?
Probably about just over 100. I got nervous and slowed down.
Nice.
Favorite cereal?
Lucky Charms all the way.
Oh, Lucky Charms. How many kids?
I have 3.
Have you made cry? Please wait for this question.
Then 3 daily. Yeah.
3 daily. Perfect.
Yeah.
Good job. Count Chocula or Count Dracula?
I have never had either. I have no idea.
Ooh.
Well, I don't think you have Count Dracula.
I don't know what that is.
He has you.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought you were on the cereal thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, one is cereal and one's a serial killer, I guess. Then, fastest mile.
Recently, because I'm a runner, I just hit 6:09.
Nice. Wow, that's really good, man. You almost hit the 5s.
Getting there. I'm trying to get sub 6 as fast as possible.
Wow. You know what's interesting is none of these questions actually put the units. So it's like fastest mile. Well, driven, flown, it just everybody just answers. So favorite flavor?
Orange cream, anything.
Yeah, see,
orange
everybody
cream
picks ice cream on that. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs, 100%.
That is correct. This interview will continue. Tacos or burritos?
Probably burritos. Slight edge to burritos.
Slight edge, but they're very close. Correct.
Yeah.
Favorite video game?
All-time favorite video game, Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to say Super Tecmo Bowl because that is the.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I have to strike that. RBI baseball.
Oh,
3. That's my
good.
all-time.
That was
sorry.
a good. Yeah, that was a good one. And then, of course, the fun one: Trump or Biden?
In what? Like MMA? Like
yes.
What?
Sure. No units.
We'll go Trump in MMA.
He's got the size. He's got the size advantage. I think he's going to win.
And final question, what was the first concert you ever went to? All the way back to Barney.
I've heard you guys ask this to other people, and I have been thinking for a long time. I cannot remember my first concert, but I will tell you, can I just cheat and give you my favorite concert ever? I'm not much of a concert guy like everybody else. I like concerts okay, but they're not a big thing for me. But my favorite concert by far was Dave Matthews at Shoreline Amphitheater in California. That was the most incredible experience. I was in college, so it would have been Probably
60s.
late 90s, early 2000s.
Nice.
Yeah,
Not
probably
the
around
60s.
2000. Yeah. So
That's
it was
awesome.
incredible. It was awesome. Yep.
Late
They are
90s.
good.
I saw Dave Matthews open up for the Dead in Vegas, like in early 90s.
Yeah. No, that's when they were all over it, and he's great. I saw him I've probably seen him the most in different venues. So, but that was an incredible venue. If you've never been to that, you got to go to a concert at Shoreline. Yep.
Yeah.
That's in San Diego, right?
No, it's up north. It's up by Palo Alto in near Stanford.
Is it out
California.
outside?
Yeah, they built it for the Grateful Dead. It was kind of where the Grateful Dead would do most of their concerts. It's really kind of.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool. So take us back from Dave Matthews to now, and how did you get yourself involved in this crazy business?
All my wife's fault. I'll just tell you that right now. I've done a lot of different things, all somewhat around sales and marketing, essentially. My first job, 14 and a half years old, was a dishwasher in a deli. That to me was awesome. It taught me the discipline of hard work, showing up and doing stuff that nobody else wants to do. So I was a cleanup in a deli in a meat department. So that was awesome. But essentially from college on, I've been in some form of sales and marketing role. I've worked primarily in sports marketing. We have a AAA baseball franchise here in Fresno. So I started out really as my main job there, doing everything from being an accounting clerk to a mascot to selling tickets to selling corporate sponsorships and, promotions at the stadium, and then have done a variety of different roles for a couple of different sports teams and things here in the area. But my wife actually worked for Allstate Insurance and Claims for about 14 years. And that was like her first job out of college and real job. And she did that for a long time. And she ended up managing a claims unit for a long time. And then through a set of circumstances and things in our own life, as they were kind of consolidating some claims offices, she transitioned out of the insurance business and started doing some other things. We adopted a little boy from Haiti. And so she spent probably a couple of years at home with him and then realized she didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. So we started talking about what to do for her. So because of her background with Allstate and in the insurance business, she started kicking some tires, and through some relationships, we got in touch with not really a recruiter, but a sales leader that she used to work with. And before long, we started talking about possibility of her getting into the insurance business as an agent. Well, she had never done sales and marketing, so quickly transitioned into, well, I would love to do that, but I'm not ready to do it. So we started talking more about doing it together. So my wife and I launched our agency about 2.5 years ago. So with my experience in sales and marketing and her experience on the back end and managing a team and claims and all that, we thought it would be great to work together.
Did you start scratch? No
we
premium?
Started scratch, no premium.
How was that?
I've done it before in other sales jobs. So I've created a book of business. So for me, it wasn't necessarily scary to do that. I actually preferred that model versus trying to buy a book. But yeah, I mean, it's incredibly nerve-wracking and stressful and really, really difficult financially, considering neither one of us have an income, so yeah, that was difficult, but we slowly and surely been growing it. So
your wife brought industry knowledge, but was it pretty steep learning curve?
Absolutely.
The other side?
Yeah. The insurance part of it for me, just like anything, I've been in sales long enough. It's all about learning your product and what it is. And thankfully, insurance is one of those things where you have it. So you kind of know the auto side of it a little bit. And I've been a little bit in the mortgage business, so I kind of knew the homeowners policy, insurance side. So for me, the learning curve was fine. I mean, doing all the licensing and everything was a challenge, but fortunately I got through it all pretty quick, and it's kind of come naturally to me. I really enjoy the insurance business. I love how it can help everybody. There's not a single person. I always tell people I can walk into a coffee shop and every single person there is a prospective customer or somebody that will benefit from what I'm doing. I've been in sales jobs before where you're selling to a very, very small group of people. So for me, insurance is great because there's nobody I can't help in some shape or, some form or fashion. So
love it. Talk about the adoption. That must have been crazy.
Yeah, that was a long process. So we started back in 2013, my wife and I, and our church was starting a partnership with a mission or with an organization down in Haiti. So we went down there and did a little mission trip just to kind of see if it would make sense for our church to be involved with this organization. And we had always talked about the possibility of adopting, but I would say within about 3 hours of being there on the ground and serving this orphanage for a week, we realized right then that was something we definitely wanted to do for our family. So we started the process, and about 4.5 years later, we ended up bringing our son TK home with us. So by the time we brought him home, he was just about 5 years old. It was about a 4.5 year process. So we made multiple trips back and forth to Haiti, and it was a great experience. We've got 2 biological children that are older, and they got to join us with it. It was incredible. It was a life transforming event, and we wouldn't be doing this if we hadn't gone down that journey, because it kind of forced us to pull back a little bit, really figure out what we wanted to do long term and what kind of legacy we wanted to create for our family. And so having that extra time, my wife being at home with him really forced us, to kind of evaluate what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives.
And I knew that had a correlation too. I don't know if I could work with my wife, but I know you guys work well together. We had those conversations. So I figured that probably was the something that strengthened your work relationship as well. Cause that,
I wouldn't necessarily recommend, they always say don't do certain things together, like moving, having a funeral, a wedding, or changing jobs in the same year. We were kind of pretty much doing everything all at one time. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but sometimes you got to be in the fire, to really figure out what matters. So that's exactly what I think came out of it.
Yeah. Well, it can be a lot doing all those things, but if you make it through, then I think it solidifies, the foundation. Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say? I know that there are other agents out there that work with a spouse. She brought a lot to the table. You did too. What are some tips that you can give some people working with spouse, or, I guess kids, whatever would be kind of similar?
Yeah, great. I mean, first thing I would say is if anybody's thinking about doing it, one of the things we were really careful to do is we went out and reached out to other people that were doing it. So we have quite a few friends that are husband-wife teams. A lot of them are in real estate. We have a couple that run a distribution company for a water purification system, and they've worked together for a few years. And so first bit of advice was talk to other people that are doing it, figure out what kind of people that you trust, people that that will be honest about you, people that know you enough to know if you truly should be working together or not, somebody that'll give you that feedback. We kept hearing, oh, you guys will do great. They've seen us work together. So whether it's through church or just through life, people have seen us work together, and they knew that we would be able to figure it out. Even if we were butting heads on something, they knew we'd be able to figure it out. So that was good to have that feedback early on, that validation. But I guess the biggest thing that I would say is a couple of things. One, stay humble. Don't come into it thinking that you got all the answers. I guess the same advice I'd give to anybody about marriage. Just stay humble, show up every day, knowing that some days you're going to have it, some days you aren't. Some days the other person's going to have it, some days they aren't. And just know that you're in it together. You have the same goals, the same purpose. So let the little things go as much as possible. And then, over time, you'll figure out what your lane is. Stay in your lane. It's pretty easy for me to want to take over every aspect of everything. I just kind of have that personality. I love solving problems. I love being in the action. And I had to learn, it took me probably longer than it did for her to learn that, but I had to just start realizing there's certain things I have no right to be involved with, and I need to trust her to do that. And we just learned. And then for her, I've been in sales a long time. It took her probably a long time to trust my ability in sales, even though I've done well over the years in different capacities and different sales things. She finally got to see it. And for somebody that's not a salesperson, she never really got it. She never understood why I did certain things. And so for her, it was really just a matter of seeing it in action and understanding the sales process and trusting me to take her through that process. And so, so stay humble, stay in your lane, and just trust each other that you're going to be able to get through it. So,
well, she had to be somewhat weary because you did sell her on the idea of marrying you.
Yes. So, and if you know me, that's a giant sales job right there. Right. I mean, come on.
But in all seriousness, I love the advice of, checking that ego is so challenging, and it's a balance, right? You have to have some ego to be able to push through and get through some of these difficult times, but then you need to be humble and check that ego and you don't need to always be right.
Yeah. Well, it was hard too, because, I don't know how it is for other agents out there, independents and other people that were other captives, but for us, with the carrier that we're with, we can't be a husband-wife team the way that we're presented. My face is on everything. If you go to our website, it's my face. And, she just kind of naturally just came up underneath that and said, hey, you need to be the guy. It's your thing. But I look at it as we're both in this, it's our company. We're partners in this. But so it was kind of easy for me to start just taking on more than I should and acting like it's all mine. But I had to go back and constantly check myself and go, nope, this is us. And it's not even just us. That's how we try to manage our whole office. It's not just even the two of us. It's our team. We are a team, and we're going to make this work together. So it's about making sure you're always coming back to that. What are we in this for? What are we trying to accomplish? Everybody knows their roles, and just get to it.
Clear communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
How important has that been? I think that Agents can maybe even sometimes doubt themselves and not want to communicate. And then you can kind of run and hide and maybe not go through all the stuff, but you're the leader. And I think communication can be so important, right? To be clear on everything. And how important has that been in your agency?
Man, I don't know if there's anything more important, to be honest. I mean, communication is key. I mean, on all levels, I mean, communication with clients. I mean, that's what sales is to me. It's just being able to properly communicate with people, understanding what they need, what you have to offer, figuring out that gap and bringing that all together. But for a team perspective and running an agency, I mean, that's probably the worst thing that I've been at. I mean, I kind of pride myself on my ability to talk to people and socialize and all that kind of stuff. But I was first year and a half, as I kind of expressed with you guys when we went to Ignite, I had to look at myself in the mirror and realize that a lot of our problems were just me not communicating properly with our team, not creating proper expectations, not letting them know what I was holding and what I was struggling with. And I have all these expectations of them and what they're supposed to be doing, but I'm not even communicating. It's all up here. And then I'm frustrated and we're not getting anywhere and I'm making all these decisions and they don't know why. Once I start having real open communication with everybody, they're like, oh yeah, sure, we can do that. So yeah. I think communication is absolutely vital, and just it doesn't have to be perfect communication, but just talk, work it out, have that dialogue both ways. If something's not connecting, if people aren't with you, or if they're just kind of saying, they're probably not really with you. So you got to get that buy-in and make sure that they fully understand what you're trying to communicate. So yeah, you're right on about that.
I love that concept. It's in the peak performance, but looking in the mirror, and if it's not working, it falls on the owner, right? It's very easy to blame everybody else, and everybody, across the board in life, not just in business, people want to point the finger at the others. But if something's not working, the only one that can really fix it is the dude in the mirror or the dude in the mirror. And that's hard to own sometimes.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, that was the first thing I think you had us all go around at the table and introduce, why were we there? Why were we at Ignite? Again, I wasn't even a part of Teledudes at the time. I followed you guys on the podcast and listened to a lot of the stuff and got a lot of value out of that. I had a couple of other agents that encouraged me to go and do this thing. Spent some money to fly out there and hang out with you guys and take 2 days out of the agency. And granted, I was the only guy really making all the sales in our agency at the time. So that was a big commitment, but I remember distinctly when you guys told us to be prepared to talk about why we were there and what we were looking to get out of that. And we went around the table and I just had to, like you said, I had to look in the mirror and I told you guys that, look, I'm a great sales agent. I feel like really confident. I can do the insurance business. I can sell a lot of policies. I can do that all day long. I'm not a very good agent or an owner. And that's why I wanted to go to Ignite, is I wanted to learn from you guys and from other agents how to actually properly run an agency. And man, that was game changing for me right there. Even just admitting that was a huge thing.
Yeah, so it is. It's wanting to do everything and controlling the show and being the best salesperson and all of that. It's just not scalable, right? You can't scale that business.
Nope.
And I was there too.
I would say too, it's not as rewarding. Like it's super rewarding when you can transfer these like superpowers to people that have never done sales or anything like that. And you start training and then you see them grow and it's like, wow, that's huge. I mean, that was one of my eye-opening moments in the agency, was when I kind of looked at it. I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to be doing all this. I want to be training people to do it and see them. Yeah. That's fun.
That's a great point. I think you're 100% right on about that. I mean, there's nothing like watching other people be successful and to be able to do it. And I mean, it's like coaching, right? I mean, I coach my son's little league team, and I know how to play baseball. I played it my whole life, but I can't get joy out of going out there and beating up on these little kids, and hey, look how great I am. No, it's nothing like taking a kid that doesn't know what's going on and show them something and then they figure it out. Man, I get more joy out of that than I ever did hitting a double or anything like that. It's so much better. So I think you're 100% right about that. Same feeling is what I've been experiencing in these last few months, watching our team really start seeing, like, getting their legs up underneath them and feeling confident and understanding what they can do and realizing their full potential.
And your sales have been incredibly much greater since then, right?
Yes, consistently. Yeah, we've had some bits of success before, but again, it was primarily me, or maybe we had one other seller that had a good run a little bit. But yeah, consistency wise, absolutely. I mean, and what's funny, it was even before I kind of actually signed up for Teledudes and actually got the system in place, just the mindset of like, I need to start really running my agency differently. And just some of the things that you guys shared a lot about when we were Ignite, just putting some of those things into practice in our agency immediately yielded results long before we even got our systems in place to support the nuts and bolts of how to sell insurance. So yeah, we've been climbing. We're knocking down our goals. We're kind of a smaller agency still. We haven't been able to scale it yet the way that I'd like, but we're heading in the right direction, and the train's going the right way. And we know this is the direction that we're gonna continue to go. We know we're gonna have success. It's just now a matter of how quickly we can get there.
Love it. What would you tell somebody that's coming in? I know that's the final question, but
yeah, man, what are you doing?
I guess from the scratch perspective, what would you do differently now? Like the way you approached it then and now with everything you've learned, how would you approach it differently?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, we just kind of jumped into it. Maybe I was a little overconfident in our ability to get sales going right away. Again, having started scratch in other businesses and sales, I felt pretty confident in my ability to just make it happen. So I would say probably maybe spend a little bit more time on the front end, really, really planning out like where you're going to get your business from and putting a really good system in place. You know, we come from a community that it's a larger community, but it's still very kind of small town mentality. And so I kind of relied too heavily on my own network as my basis for building our business. And that's kind of how they tell you, it's like, hey, go to the people that you know the best and they'll buy from you. I was shocked at how many people I thought that would come immediately and buy insurance from me. How many people wouldn't even answer my call. I mean, people I thought were my best friends, right? So I think for anybody that's really interested in getting in this business, starting from scratch, build up a business model that has nothing to do with your network. Your network should be like your gravy. It should be the extra. It should be the bonus, the cherry on the top. But if you can't do this business, going out there and getting it from people that know nothing about you and could care less who you are, then you may want to reconsider it until you can figure out that model. So that would be my number one point of advice. Yeah.
Can you imagine if somebody started a McDonald's and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to start, I'm going to invite my family. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They better be able to eat a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Creating that measurable, the whole process where you can measure stuff. How much has that changed the game? Did you come in thinking that? Like, I know that you just spoke on what you were told, but what was in your mind coming into it about how you would develop your business and scale? Or was scaling just not even something you were thinking of?
I mean, it's something we were thinking about, but I didn't have an actual understanding of what that looks like in this business, of actually how to scale. I guess in all the other sales jobs I've ever had, I've just been a sales guy, go out, build your book. I wasn't, necessarily responsible for everybody else's growth in the overall business. So I understand it in general, like what we're trying to do, but actually doing it in the insurance model I was kind of learning on the fly. I had an idea. It's kind of like, I kind of equate it to like being in college. When you go to business school, they kind of teach you what business is supposed to look like, but then you get out in the real world and it's something entirely different. So I had a pretty good idea of what it was supposed to look like, but once I got into it, just get hit from 100 different directions. And the reality of, oh my gosh, we haven't made a sale in 3 days. And then you start panicking, and then you're just putting out fires everywhere. And then you got calls that you don't even know how to sell that because you've never sold it before. So even if I would have fully understood how to measure it and track it, I don't know if I gave myself enough time to actually do it. I wasn't spending enough time doing that. I was just selling and just trying to like survive daily. And I think that's where, I had all the best intentions of spending some time on a Saturday or evenings of really focusing on all that stuff. But you just get thrown into the fire and you just start running and you go, and all that stuff goes out the window. And before long, it's, 6 months, a year, and you haven't spent any time looking at the business. You're just in the business, So,
well, the business can end up running you if you're taking 100%. On everything that needs to be taken care of and learning all the things that need to be learned, right? It just it's so overwhelming. There's so many things, and anybody could walk in the door and be busy. But are you busy with the stuff that you should be busy with?
Yeah, and that's where I think I made the biggest mistake early on again, and that's going to be a theme in anything you ask me about. It's just how many mistakes I made at the beginning. But yeah, just getting busy and just letting that stuff go too early, just not staying disciplined to go, nope, time out. Even if I have to walk away from a few sales now to make sure that I'm putting things in place into our agency to be successful in the long run, I've got to do that right now. So you've got to stay true to those things. You've got to make sure that you commit to those things on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever it is. Just stay focused in on what you have to do to make sure the agency is going down the right path that you want it to.
What would some tips that you would give somebody that feels like they're wearing every hat, working 12-hour days and wants to transition, but feels like, hey, man, I'm packed with 12-hour days. There's no way I can do anything. I can't train someone to do that or whatever.
Yeah, I would say, well, okay, maybe you're right, but probably more often, if it's like me, most of that stuff's not true. You just have to do it. And there's no way around it. I mean, do you want to continue to work that way the rest of your life, or do you want to find a better way? So you either have to decide to do it, or you just, and most of the time I found that that's not true. Those are just voices in your head that tell you that's what it's going to be, that nobody will ever be able to do it as good as you. You know, if I just get these things done, then I can sit back and focus
Right.
on the business. No, it's never going to happen. There's always going to be another project or something else that comes up that's going to take your time. So you're better off walking away from a few sales if that's what it takes to make sure that you stay on task with the things that you have to do as an agency owner. So don't believe all those voices in your head, and you just have to try it. You have to try a different way. If it's not working for you one way, doing it that way, you have to try something different. Otherwise, you're just delaying the inevitable, and which is going to be either a mediocre agency. Maybe you'll have some success, but it's never going to be as successful as it could be if you did it the right way.
It's so interesting to think about that question that Jason asked with the time, it's the time machine question. You get in the DeLorean, you go back to the day you opened, and today's self tells that guy, hey, you need to do it this way. Well, I don't know that even if you had that knowledge that you'd be able to execute the same way as if you didn't go through and fail through that process, right? You learn so much from going for it and messing up, so much more from that experience. And it's tough to come and actually execute on a plan without having that experience.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think sometimes you have to feel the pain to understand why it's so important to stay with it. It's like the idea of, as a kid, you got to let them kind of touch the stove. Otherwise, you've got to be there every time telling your kid not to touch the stove. Well, they do it once, they burn themselves. Guess what? They remember that the next time, they'll never touch it again. And so you have to experience that pain. And I think, Craig, like you're talking about, it's, that's sometimes what ends up being my compass in the morning is like, I don't want to feel that anymore. I don't want to go another week having to be the only guy in our office selling. I want to create a system that enables everybody else to have the success so that I can step away for a couple of days, or I can be off my game for a day and we still are achieving our goals. So, but if I didn't have that pain, it probably wouldn't, resonate. And I'd keep leaning back in on my own abilities and my own ego and all that stuff. So you got to experience it for sure.
Yeah. I'm a huge, strong believer in whatever business that anybody sets up. You have to set it up with the thought of you not being a cog in the system. You set up a system that every role can be filled by somebody else. Now you can jump in and do stuff, but if you're the one that has to do it, like you're the main person, you can never truly get to that point where you're running it. Because to your point, there's always stuff like there's 10 fires that show up later and, but you had plans to do this one thing and then you have to do the fires. It's like, there's never a way to play catch up unless there's a system where it runs without you so that you can go above it and be able to pull the right levers and look for that future.
Yeah. And, I think that's one thing I learned from you guys. You guys have, again, part of the reason I was instantly kind of on board once I was there with you guys for 2 days. I saw it. Before then, you guys were just a podcast. You guys were just two people that
blah, blah, blah.
Talk a lot, right? Typical guys out there just talking a lot. But actually being in Craig's agency and seeing it happen and knowing you guys did a great job of helping us understand how you got to this point. It wasn't all pretty for you either. And that was really encouraging for me. It's not like you guys opened up shop one day and it just all worked for you. You've been through a lot of the same stuff, right? And to have you guys be further down the road and to know, hey, there is a way, and kind of you guys are just further down the road for us, than me was really, really comforting. And to know, okay, there is a way. So that was really helpful to hear that and to know, okay, I think that's one thing, Jason, you've really I always pick up is you're always hammering that point of like, hey, I don't want to be involved with that. Right. I got to get out of the way and let my people do what they're going to do. And I still struggle with that because we're all different. We're all wired differently. I like having my hands involved in some things. And so I always have to fight that urge. And my wife always has to slap my hands and say, get out of that, stop, let them do that. So, but that is something I'm still working on for sure.
Yeah. The my way or the highway is it's that'll drive you crazy because I don't now, like it took me a long time to let go of those things. Cause I can go in there, I can walk in that room that you've been in there. I can go walk there right now. And something that somebody does will drive me crazy. Yeah. And it's like, you know what, who cares? Because at the end of the day, we're just worried about the result. And as long as they're doing it, as long as they're legal, ethical, and not hurting anybody, then let them do it because they're going to, if it doesn't work, they're going to figure it out. And as long as, they're not doing anything wrong and that doesn't happen. So it works. Right.
and helping people. I think that's,
yeah.
And I know you instill that in your agency, and I know Josh does too, because that's a big part of, like, you have to have a GPS and you have to instill that in your team. And I think it's like, at the end of the day, this is not rocket science. You're helping solve people's problems. Oh, but we're so expensive. All these stupid details. Who cares? Like, just help this person, listen to them, talk to them. Sometimes people just want to be heard. And if you do that, they're probably willing to pay an extra premium for that. I mean, that's a huge value to a lot of people. I mean, I guess to anybody, being heard means a lot. And I'm sure any dude that's married to somebody knows that their wife wants to be heard. They don't want to hear you try to solve the problem and everything. They just want to know that they're being heard. But I think going through the agency and the sales process and everything else, just if you have that other person's best interests and you're just trying to help, like, ethical and everything else, it'll all work out. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you still doing here?
Well, while you're still here and while it's fresh in your mind, check out live.teledudes.com.
Yeah, if you weren't listening before, we took notes from over 100 interviews with top agents from around the country and made it into a live webcast.
Using these strategies did help Craig and I write over $10 million in premium in the last couple years.
And let me tell you, on this call, you'll receive the exact blueprint to get the very same results.
Again, that's live.teledudes.com to register for this upcoming Tuesday's live call with us.
And if you jump on with us, we are certain 2022 will be an absolutely fantastic year for you.
See you there.